China. And I don't fault him for that, as I don't fault Nixon for having visited China a decade earlier. But just as Nixon sacrificed Taiwan for his trip to China, Jimmy Carter did the same thing in his recognition of the People's Republic as the China. Because the exiled government of Chiang Kai-shek, the Republic of China, was occupying the island, and they went by the name of China, and they kept talking about trying to regain the mainland, the island slid into the trap, the quicksand of history, where it's been stuck all along. So Carter issued his own communique on the recognition of China. January 1st, 1979. Jimmy Carter. The United States of America recognizes the government of the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China. Within this context, the people of the United States will maintain cultural, commercial, and unofficial relations with the people of Taiwan. Well, that's real nice. But he goes on to say, the government of the United States of America acknowledges the Chinese position that there is but one China, and Taiwan is a part of China. Jimmy Carter. Congress, alarmed at that, almost immediately passed the Taiwan Relations Act in 1979. And there's a line in the Taiwan Relations Act that I want to share. In the Taiwan Relations Act, it says the act is to maintain the capacity to resist any resort to force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people of Taiwan. Well, I'm glad there's a Taiwan Relations Act, and I'm glad that says what it says. But it still does not talk about self-determination. It still leaves out that vital element that's been missing from the picture since 1945, the right of the people of Taiwan to choose their own future. Carter's out of office. Now we've got George Bush the First. And we've been bouncing back between Democrat and Republican, and it makes virtually no difference to the people of Taiwan. Each president in line has so far betrayed them on the topic of self-determination. Yes, the United States presidents have been selling weapons to the Republic of China. Taiwan's been a great source for the American military-industrial complex. The defense contractors have gotten rich selling weapons. That this unresolved political status has created an arms race. Hundreds of missiles in China facing Taiwan, and the United States military industries busy selling weapons and weapons and weapons to the island. Good for business, bad for the people of Taiwan. Bush got a number of letters. He got letters from Taiwanese American Association chapters all over the country. He got a letter from FAPA. He got letters from the mayor of Honolulu. A whole variety of letters about human rights issues. He didn't answer one of them himself. He gave them to the State Department. They gave them to a guy by the name of Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown answered all of George Bush's letters. I've got a few of them. Let's hear what Dennis Brown had to say for George Bush about Taiwan. I'm going to read that one last, because that one actually wasn't by David Brown. So, the Seattle chapter of the Formosan Association for Public Affairs wrote and asked, what is to be the future of Taiwan, Mr. President? And here's what the answer was. Our consistent position, which is known to all, is that the future of Taiwan should be resolved by the Chinese people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait in a peaceful manner, free of outside interference. Well, why should the future of Taiwan be decided by the Chinese people? What about letting the people of Taiwan decide their own future? Bush was going to make one of his tourist trips to the Great Wall. So the Pittsburgh Taiwanese American Citizens League wrote him about his upcoming trip and said, Mr. President, what are you going to do about the Taiwan problem? And here's the answer to them. Under 5 successive presidents, the United States has acknowledged the Chinese position. There is but one China, and Taiwan is a part of China. During his visit to China, President Bush confirmed the consistency of U.S. policy by reaffirming the joint communiques of 72, 79, and 82, which would continue to form the basis of U.S. policy towards China. He stated clearly that U.S. policy would continue to be based on the one China principle. You will recall in the 1982 communique, the government stated it has no intention of pursuing a policy of 2 Chinas or one China, one Taiwan. In other words, more of the same. More of the same. By the way, I got my presidents out of order. I left out Ronald Reagan. We're going to get to Ronald Reagan. I just apologize. I got my papers mixed up. But it almost doesn't matter. Because no matter which president you look up to or talk about or you read from, it's the same double talk, the same double standard, the same betrayal of the right of self-determination, Republican or Democrat alike. We'll finish up with Bush first, and then I'll get to Reagan. The Formosan Association for Human Rights in Sunset Beach, California, wrote to Bush. They were concerned about the arrest of dissidents, the jailing of critics of the Republic of China government in Taiwan. Human rights at its very core. Now we're talking about individual people, not just a whole nation. We're talking about individual people. And here's what Bush said to that. In recent years, Taiwan has made significant progress in improving its human rights policies and practices. We remain concerned, however, about lingering human rights problems, in particular about Taiwan's blacklist, which prevents certain Taiwan citizens from returning to their homeland. This practice does not meet internationally accepted standards. It is a fundamental tenet of U.S. policy that persons should not be persecuted for their political beliefs. End of the letter. Oh, he goes on with a little more double talk, but is there action? No. No action. In Canada, Taiwanese Americans in Canada even wrote to the president. The World Federation of Taiwanese Associations in Ontario, Canada wrote, this time about the jailing of an editor, Mr. Chang Ning-yong. He'd been charged with treason for publishing a draft constitution of the Republic of Taiwan. Imagine that. A newspaper editor had the nerve to publish a draft constitution for a Republic of Taiwan. And for that he was charged with treason. What did Bush say about that? Well, as you know, U.S. government policy towards China is based on the principle there is but one China. The U.S. government has made it clear it has no intention of pursuing a policy of 2 Chinas or one China, one Taiwan. However, the American U.S. government supports the right of free speech without regard to political content. We've made these views known to the authorities in Taiwan. A lot of help that was to the jailed editor. Well, I'm going to leave George Bush alone, George Bush the first alone. We'll go back in time now and pick up Ronald Reagan. He was a great anti-communist. Maybe he would offer a little help. And he did. More weapons. Arms sales. We'll protect the island. His arms sales policy was so aggressive that it caused alarm in China. And in September of 1981, the People's Republic of China issued a 9-point proposal. Reagan decided, well, maybe we need to kind of quiet this down a little, and issued a joint communique with Red China. The third communique, the first one we had was Nixon's. Then we had Carter's. Now we've got Reagan's. Here was the China position. The Chinese government reiterates the question of Taiwan is China's internal affair. Here's Reagan's answer. The United States government attaches great importance to its relations with China and reiterates it has no intention of infringing on Chinese sovereignty or territorial integrity or interfering in China's internal affairs or pursuing a policy of two Chinas or one China, one Taiwan. Furthermore, our arms sales to Taiwan will not exceed in quantity or quality the level of weapons that we've previously supplied. Well, that made Chiang Ching-kuo unhappy and uneasy. So Reagan had to issue another statement about our arms sales. This is his statement on the arms sales. He said the Taiwan question is a matter for the Chinese people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait to resolve. We will not interfere in this matter or prejudice the free choice or put pressure on the people of Taiwan in this matter. Well, the people of Taiwan weren't even be given a choice. It's the people of China on both sides of the strait that have the decision, he said. Or maybe he assumed that the people of Taiwan were Chinese. It's hard to tell because all of their statements are deliberately vague, deliberately worded to have confusion so that they have negotiating room. Clarity is nothing you'll find in the U.S. position except when it comes time to sell weapons. Well, Chiang Ching-kuo was still uneasy and unhappy. So what did we do? We sent 3 non-papers to the Republic of China in exile. What's a non-paper? I came across that in my whole life. I've never heard about a non-paper. And we gave Chiang 3 of them. So I did a little more research to try to figure out, well, what is a non-paper? And here's the definition of a non-paper. As used in American diplomacy, a non-paper is a document on plain paper without seal or signature, intended to convey a position or policy, but in an informal manner. We didn't even give them official document. More double talk. Double talk to them, double talk to the Chinese, double talk to the Russians, double talk to the American public, double talk to Congress. That's what's been going on out of the White House since 1945. Every president. Well, now we're done with Reagan. Now it's Bill Clinton. Oh, we had George Bush in there. I had my order reversed, so in case you keep track of history. Bill Clinton. Well, he had his own policy, the 1-3-3 policy.